What is up, guys? Welcome to this video. In this one, I'm going to be telling you how emotions don't have to control your actions. Now, what I mean by this is dominantly the emotions that you probably don't like anger or jealousy, etc. All these sort of unpleasant emotions that we tend to want to run away from. And you can notice in your own life that when these emotions have influenced your actions, it's dominantly made things worse most of the time. And this is going to be a really tricky one to get. Not in the sense that it's some sort of very abstract idea, but really it's going to require you to really wake up and be aware in the present moment, which most of us are not. We're very much on autopilot, lost in our thoughts, lost in our sort of habitual ways of relating, lost in our habitual behaviors and our habitual actions. And this video is really going to have to get you to just really snap out of it. Now, in a lot of my previous videos, I've talked about just becoming aware of emotions and not resisting them, whereas in this one, I'm going to be taking it a step further. So from the way I've currently analyzed it, I can outline 3 stages of what I'm going to be calling emotional development. I'm using that kind of in my own way. I'm just outlining 3 stages that I've observed for myself. So first, there's just unconscious suffering, where your emotions are a complete wreck, and you're not very aware of how they work at all. And then there's conscious suffering. And in this one, you're becoming aware of how your emotions arise. You don't really know how or why they're arising. You don't really understand much about them, but that they're happening, they are happening, and that your resistance to them is the problem. And in this third stage, which is what this video is going to be about, which I'm going to call the conscious creator stage. In this one, you are becoming directly aware that emotions are not something that you're a victim to, like they just kind of happen and all we can do is kind of react to them. But you're becoming aware that emotion is something that you're doing. It's something that you're actually acting out. It's not something that I don't really have any control over it, and, well, I should just not resist them. But, this emotion is still rather dysfunctional. You can actually become aware as to how you are creating the emotion and really start to change your experience. You can really, really change so much about yourself that you don't actually understand how much you can really change about yourself. For the most part, I'm assuming that you experience yourself as a rather sort of fixed personality, fixed human with these thoughts and these beliefs, and they don't really change too much. They're kind of just stuck there. And these same emotional patterns, the same things that you like and dislike, and this stuff can't change. Or at least it seemingly can't change. And I'm going to put forth a pretty radical idea that any part of your personality is deeply rewirable if you have enough awareness of it and you have an intention to rewrite it. So the awareness aspect is just bringing it into light and realizing how it's being constructed. And then the rewriting process is basically you rewriting the script so that it can actually serve you, whatever that process is. Now, in order to not have emotions control your actions, you have to actually first become aware and snap out of your habitual tendencies to just get lost in thoughts, which is going to be tricky for a lot of people, because we have a sort of reaction when we feel something uncomfortable. We would like to retreat into thoughts and say how this is a bad experience. I don't like this. This is terrible. This shouldn't be happening. I don't want to feel this. This shouldn't be the case. This is a tendency that has got to go. This is just a pattern, an unconscious pattern that is making us suffer. That whole thing has to go. There's no debating that. If what you want is deeper degrees of emotional mastery, that entire way of relating to emotions has to go. And also, I want to make a quick point. You don't have to believe what I say in this video. What I'm doing in basically almost all my videos is I'm putting forth something not so you can believe in it, but so you can actually grasp it in your experience. Like, see for yourself, when you have a strong emotion, does retreating into thoughts make it feel better? Like, does retreating into some, like, the depths of your mind when there's some emotion you don't like, does that actually solve anything, or is it a sort of subtle running away from the experience? You're like retreating from it. So figure that out on your own. But first of all, if we don't want emotions to control our actions, we have to become aware of them. I've made a lot of videos on this in the past. And we also have to make a distinction between the emotion and the action. These are distinct things. We can make the distinction between the feeling in our body and then the behavior that we're carrying out. So make a distinction between the emotion versus acting on the emotion/behavior. And you have to actually apply this in real time as it's happening. Like, when it's really difficult to snap out of your habitual tendencies is when you actually have to do it. You will not make fundamental changes just watching a video or reading a book. You actually have to very deeply apply it into your own life over and over and over again. You actually have to master it. This has to be seen as like a form of art to you, where you have to practice it. Now, moving on, I'm going to explain some steps to this. So first, you have to be aware of the emotions and your behaviors. And second, realize that they are something that you are doing for a purpose. And first, we'll investigate the emotion. So you have to investigate the beliefs that you have that create the emotion. You have to have the intention to realize that there is something in your experience that is actually creating this emotion. It's not that idiot over there, or this person shouldn't act like that. These are all beliefs that can actually contribute to the creation of, let's say, anger or sadness. This person shouldn't act that way. That's a belief that you have that is now going to create some sort of emotional reaction. The truth is that he actually should act that way because he might not know any better, or you might not tell him that you don't like what he's doing or whatever. Or maybe he's might be a little bit stubborn. But holding this very rigid belief, he shouldn't do this thing, you've doomed yourself to basically just suffering. Just by holding that idea as what is true, you have now screwed yourself. You will have to get rid of that. And you can watch this in your experience every time someone does something that you don't like, and you start going off about how they shouldn't do this shouldn't be happening. Reference how you're feeling. And you can feel toxic in your body. You've noticed that there's just a toxic, sort of resistant pattern to reality happening in your body. And what I'm saying is that that pattern is the cause of 99% of your suffering. And this pattern manifests in a lot of different ways. But this particular example is one way that it actually has manifested. So you have to realize that your emotions aren't something that are just happening and that's it, but you're doing them for a reason, because you believe that by acting angry, you can get something. And anger, for example, is not a bad emotion. We have a sort of subtle belief in the back of our mind that anger is a bad emotion. Anger can be very useful for drawing personal boundaries and for making yourself feel capable. It's also fantastic for scaring the crap out of other people and manipulating them so that you can get what you want. And you get to choose which path you go down in life. You get to choose what you want to do. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to just help you get something that you're doing in your experience. How you choose to relate is up to you. Personally, I wouldn't recommend manipulating everyone, but if that's what you want to do, I can't stop you from doing that. I would not recommend that though. So become aware that an emotion like suffering or a sense of lack, because suffering is really just a sense of lack for the most part. What is this doing? Why is this here? And it's always for some survival-related purpose. For example, when you feel lack, this feeling motivates you to go out and get something now so that you can survive. You feel lack because you don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, so now you go out and you start talking to people. You feel lack because you don't have food in your stomach, so you go out and you get it. You feel lack because you don't have enough money, so you go out and you get it. That's the purpose of that emotion. And it's funny because you can get a lot of money. You can go out and get food and a beautiful girlfriend or a handsome boyfriend who's very intelligent. You can do all that, but why does the actual sense of lack that accompanies it have to be there? That is actually rewirable. So a lot of your actions can actually be, normal, healthy actions that help you to get a need met for you to survive. But a lot of the emotions behind the action can be rather dysfunctional, like the need to go out and socialize, for example. There's nothing wrong with going out and socializing, but notice before that there could be a sense of lack that is inspiring you to go out and socialize. Why does that lack have to be there? That should kind of be a bit of a red flag to you. That why do I have to feel this way? Like, what beliefs do I have that are creating this? What sort of ways of resisting this moment do I have that are creating this? And you have to actually really create the intention to figure that out. Not by daydreaming and referencing a million thoughts, but by actually directly investigating the experience with awareness, with the pure witnessing aspect of you. So be aware of the physical sensations, like bring awareness into your body and actually examine the emotion from that perspective, from the perspective of awareness in your body, from the perspective of presence and connection to the present moment, rather than your nonstop fantasies. So really, you have to feel the emotion, you have to investigate the beliefs that are creating it, and you have to not suppress the emotion or resist it or push it away. You have to actually ask, why is this emotion here, and what is it doing? What is its purpose? What is its goal? What does it want? And you don't deny it its wants. You fully let it come out, and then you examine it. Because these emotions actually helped you to survive at one point in your life, and now they might not be serving you, so you actually have to become more aware of yourself and rewire yourself. Humans in general have a really tough time relating to their emotions because when we were young, we had no idea how to relate to them and we just suppressed them. So now, really, the aspects of ourself that we see, the tip of the iceberg of ourself, is such a small portion of what's actually happening in us. And there's at least 90 to 95% of our sort of emotional life that we aren't even really seeing. It's just deeply repressed, deeply under the surface, but it comes out in your everyday life in the way that you scream at the people you love, at the way that you guilt yourself after you scream at people, in the way that you get anxious and you start creating a bunch of stories in your head about what can go wrong and you start worrying. It starts manifesting in these ways that really bite you in the ass. Now, rewiring behavior is actually pretty easy once you have become aware. Because behavior is very clear to you, I hope, that it's something that you are doing. Like, when you get angry, instead of being aware and sort of taking a step back to just witness what's happening instead of acting on it, instead of doing that, you're impulsively acting on it and you're kind of just lashing out. And it's very, very obvious that, yeah, that's something I'm just completely doing and I can stop that. Like when I'm angry, I don't have to create a scream fest with the people I love, for example. Or I don't have to guilt myself and then, feel bunch of shame after doing a specific behavior as well. So there's a lot of ways that you can go about rewriting and becoming aware of these patterns. But first, the first thing, you have to make a very deep intention to witness it. Witness it without thoughts. Your thoughts come in too much and they fiddle with too many things and they manipulate, and there's just too much chaos happening in your thoughts. It's kind of just it's a lot of distraction, to be honest. Your thoughts pull you around too much and there's a lot of just chaos happening in there. And what you need to do is you got to snap out of that. It's just a very habitual tendency. You got to become conscious of this present moment. You just got to be aware. Sort of awareness without content. It's just watching. You can find that part of yourself that you don't need a thought to notice. It's just watching. It's just watching. It's just watching. It's just aware. It's watching. It's watching. It's watching. It's right here, right now, watching. You can find that. Use that to investigate emotion. Investigate what a thought is. Feel a thought as it arises in your head. Feel the physical sensations. Investigate the beliefs that you can possibly have. Ask a question and then just feel, reference the feeling. Why is this feeling here? And really dive deep into the sensation of the feeling. And just sit with it. Don't generate some impulsive answer, or maybe even you get an answer. You get a genuine answer, okay? But then next week, that same pattern starts to play out. Question it again, but like from a more alive place. Don't just repeat the same answer. Get a new answer right now. Okay, inquiry is always a very alive thing. If you're just repeating the same answers, you're not really getting it. And it can be a similar answer, but I recommend just noticing that you have a lot of very subtle things happening that you are deeply unaware of that are influencing a hell of a lot of your actions, behavior, and every aspect of your life. And this stuff is very difficult to uncover because we have habitually ran away from it. This is basically called our shadow. And really at the core of these emotional dysfunctions is just fear. Why resist reality? Why develop beliefs to protect yourself? Why repress an emotion? It all comes down to fear. At the core of everyone's unconscious is a boatload of just existential terror that, came from being a child. Try and remember how life was as a child. It was very mysterious, very wondrous, a lot of curiosity, I bet. But at the same time, it was very scary. Remember adults when you were young, for example. Adults and grown-ups were they seemed very powerful, omniscient, godlike. They seemed very, very just powerful to the point where you felt powerless and you would actually just be scared. They seemed like dictators, like they could do whatever they want, and that you were sort of at the end, like a victim of this whole sort of pattern. There has been a lot of stuff that happened to you as a kid, even if you've had a very sort of soft upbringing, that has scared the living crap out of you, that when you were 5 or 6, you didn't know how to handle, so you repressed it. And this stuff doesn't go anywhere. It's there. All that childhood way of relating, the anger, all that stuff is there, and it still plays itself out. Even if you're 60, it doesn't go anywhere unless you consciously work it through. And this video is just the tip of the iceberg for doing that. I have a good book. Hold on. Here. This one, I'm not done it yet, but this one's very helpful. It's called Bringing Your Shadow Out of the Dark, Breaking Free from the Hidden Forces That Drive You by Robert Augustus Masters. This one is really good. This one's fantastic for this kind of work. So I think that's it for this video. It's a very quick summary. You have to have a deep intention to become just aware, purely witness the emotion and the behavior, with the intention to rewrite it. And you also have to realize that this whole process is something you're creating. That you're not actually much of a victim. You're actually a very powerful creator. It's just that In a lot of ways, you probably create the whole victim emotion, the victim thoughts, that in a lot of areas of your life that's not very necessary and it's rather dysfunctional. And in no way am I saying that, you should just, wake up, that's it, it's done. This stuff, there's a massive process to this. And it's going to take some time. This isn't a 5-minute solution at all. This is really rewiring your whole psyche and the way that you're relating to a thought, another person, an emotion, information, your beliefs. This is really reprogramming how you're interpreting reality so that you can relate to it in a functional way. Because in many ways, you simply don't relate to it in a functional way. I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I just mean that in a way that I'm just trying to spark some curiosity in you. That maybe there is a better way to live my life that isn't so dictated by my delusion. That isn't so dictated by my poor ways of handling emotion. That isn't so dictated by my poor behavior. That isn't so dictated by my ridiculous beliefs. So that's it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. I'll answer. And other than that, hope you enjoyed.